Hey y'all, it's Diana from the Dianaverse. I'm here to talk to you today about the Taurus new moon and all the things going along with that because there's a whole lot. To get started, I just want to mention that I am doing my Patreon. I've revamped it and kind of updated to what I'm doing my current projects. So kind of restarted it. This year I'm doing all about flowers. I'm calling it flower bathing. So I have all kinds of little fun projects on my Patreon. I've got recipes, I've got things about flowers, photos, crafts. They'll be added on to as we go throughout the year. This is to go along with my book that I'm writing, which is called Child of a Flower. It's a story of a little fairy girl who gets separated from her family and how she goes on a heroine's journey to try to search for her family, other people of her kind, and all the things that happen along the way. So I hope you'll enjoy that and check it out. Go to patreon.com/Dianaverse if you're interested in following along with the flowers. I mention this because we are in I'm not sure how you pronounce this exactly. Floralia, I think is how it's pronounced. It was an ancient Roman holiday that had to do with the goddess Flora. Also had to do with all the stories of the fertility of the earth and of the people. Kind of goes along with Beltane, which I generally celebrate this time of year. Beltane is the halfway point in the year between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. The Celtic year is divided into quarters and then again into eighths with those midpoints. And so May 1st is kind of based on the Julian calendar, which is the Roman calendar, Julius Caesar. And May Day is probably more, Beltane is probably more like May 4th or 5th, which still falls within Floralia. The Romans occupied the British Isles for a long time, so their customs kind of mixed and matched a little bit, and those two things kind of go together. But I decided to go with Floralia this year, which is celebrated either 5 or 6 days, depending which source you read. Nice spring celebration of the fertility of the earth. All the flowers are blooming right now. So going along with my flower theme, I am doing Floralia. So this new moon is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. All about like the growing things and what we're building in our world. This happens to also coincide with the lunar nodes at the moment because the nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio. So there's a really huge impact from this eclipse, and it's really not one of these eclipses that's going to just be for the week, for the month, and then it's gone. This is going on for a while. It's been kind of building up because we've had Uranus in Taurus for quite a while, several years. So this new moon is aspecting that Uranus in Taurus. So there could be sudden breakthroughs, sudden revelations, some natural disaster type things going on, things that have to do with Earth, and then the unpredictability of Uranus. These could be good things. You could have fantastic breakthroughs, new opportunities, things you didn't expect. Could also be some breakdowns, depending what you've got going on in your life. My little cheat sheet's trying to fall off the camera here. So be on the lookout for that. That's one thing that's going on. Now we still have a bunch of planets in Pisces. We've got Jupiter. Venus herself is in Pisces, and Neptune is still in Pisces, where it's been for a while. We had our Jupiter-Neptune conjunction just recently. That's kind of a once in 150 year transit that happens. And now we've got Venus conjuncting Jupiter. So we're really going to see an expansion because Jupiter makes things bigger. These are the two benefics in the traditional horoscope. So in theory, you would think it should be all good things. You can have too much of a good thing. That can happen. So keep an eye on that. But in general, it should be like what we're building because like I said, with the North Node in Taurus, Venus rules Taurus. This conjunction is really going to help us see what we want to build. Now, another thing that we have going on the other hand, is Pluto is going retrograde today, and Mercury is also going to be going retrograde. So they're going to be traveling together. Mercury likes traveling into the underground. It's comfortable with Pluto. It was the only god that could go to the underground and come back without a problem. Mercury can go everywhere. He's a jack of all trades. So we'll be going over our thoughts about what we want to build. What we want to build is Earth. It's in the concrete world, but Mercury right now is in Gemini. So it's a lot about how we're thinking about this. You can see this in the world around us, right? Since the pandemic, which, that was Pluto and Capricorn that set that off, and now Pluto's going retrograde. So it's like we're going to keep going over these things that we've been thinking about. How do we want to restructure our life? What do we want to let go of from the past? Our old way of life? What are we trying to build in a new way? And we've seen a lot of this in the world around us, how jobs are being restructured, or economies being kind of restructured, things being a little different. Not all of that is comfortable. Pluto just clears the way. He doesn't necessarily care if that's good or bad. I feel like right now with this new moon, it's generally pretty good because of the Venus and Jupiter together in Pisces. It's a water sign, so that's like, it's also Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, so it can be some letting go. And sometimes that's nostalgic or a little sad or emotional. Emotional would be a good word. And you don't want to hold on to the past too much because it'll get in your way of building your new things. So we want to kind of review these things, see what we keep, what we let go. We never totally let go of the past, right? It's always kind of there. But we want to move forward. So you might want to reconstruct your past. Sometimes you can do that. Like, our memories are very subjective to how we felt about something when it was happening. So you can go back and reconstruct and say, well, if I looked at it from this perspective, that could, that's a totally different thing. You could reconstruct your own ideas about your past. That might be helpful. And I say this because we've got the moon who's been traveling. The moon travels much faster. So the moon was there with those Pisces. It visited all those planets, the Jupiter and Neptune and Venus, and kind of got in touch with the feelings. Now it was just in Aries, and it was connected to Chiron. Chiron is in Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer. So we've been thinking about our wounding and our healing, like our past traumas, our personal traumas. The moon is very personal. A lot of this is happening in those inner planets, Mercury, Venus, the moon. Those are your personal planets. So although we see things reflected in the world, it's how we act, maybe don't react. That's a key theme with, if you look at completely different set, we've got Mars sextiling the sun. So that can be like, action, let's go. But you want to be sure you're acting and not reacting. Acting means that you are centered and you're coming from your own inner world, right? When you decide to do something. Reacting is like, oh, that happened. And it can be very distracting from what we really want to do because we're just reacting and we might not be putting a lot of thought into that. Uranus is, like I already mentioned, Uranus is in Taurus, and that's where the sun is now too. So these are things that we're building, can see sudden changes. If you're really centered in yourself and not reacting to the world, you can act in your own life. And so you want to do that very consciously. Pluto is more the outer world, things that are happening we don't always have control over, but we can choose how we try to build in our own life. At least most of us can. If you're listening to this, you're probably not somewhere that's having a war or something where you've really got to scramble a little more. So Pluto and Mercury, like I said, they're comfortable together and they are in a trine. The midpoint of that is that Neptune, which is in Pisces. So you can get lost a little bit in some illusions. You can also let in a lot of imagination. If you're doing things that are creative, that Neptune could be really great for communicating, changing up your style. That could just be your look. I'm wearing flowers for Floralia at the moment. You might rethink that. Maybe you've been doing the same thing for a long time. Maybe that could be home renovations with Venus. You just want to change up your space. Could be your how you perceive yourself in the world in terms of your job. Venus is also your resources and things. So Mercury can kind of help think about new ideas for that, because it's in Gemini. It's going to be in Aries for a minute, and then it's going retrograde for 3 weeks. Great time to rethink all those things. So the moon is going to be in Taurus, as we know. So it's going to kind of be highlighting the good things in life, like food and your look and relationships with other people. Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac, so that can be like where you first interact with the world. So it's kind of like your little world, more than necessarily like big trips somewhere, or that could be happening depending on your personal chart, but it's more about kind of your circle of friends and your family and your home kind of space. So this eclipse, like I was saying, is a longer eclipse. It's going to go through 2025. There will be things that come back over these points where this eclipse is, with these nodes that stay for 1.5 years. We've already been there for a little while, but it's going to keep going. The nodes will actually move on before 2025, but there will be planets that go back over this point. So the things that you can like put your intention into building now, if you work with that consciously, you can kind of build something over the next couple of years. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that right now the planets are kind of in a smallish space in the horoscope. They're not spread out all over. So they kind of range from Capricorn, where Pluto is, to Taurus. So we initiated all this in 2020 with Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. We've kind of looked at restructuring our lives, restructuring society, what we want to do with that. Went into Aquarius, big ideas. Everybody had different ideas, right, about how to approach the pandemic, how to reinvent their lives while everything was going down. And then Pisces, where we decided to what we want to let go. Like, maybe I don't want to have to drive into downtown Seattle to work, or relationships that might change people. A lot of people moving, going to family or away from family, or a lot of these things. Now we've gotten into Aries. We've had a little bit of initiatives, things starting back up, and we've made it to Taurus, where we're rebuilding new structures, new things in our lives. And so it's all kind of in this narrow band. There's a lot of focus on this particular process that we've been doing. And things will start moving forward as we go into summer, into other signs. But this is a great time to be really focused on what you want to carry out, like maybe trimming down the amount of different various things that you're doing so you can really focus on getting a stable base to move forward from starting in the summer. All right, I hope this was helpful. The plants that I want to mention for this lunation, things that help you build your body. So I was thinking like Oatstraw, and wanted to put a flower in there, Floralia. Big leaf maple has really been talking to me. It's been talking to me for the last couple of years. I do have a flower essence of big leaf maple on my website if you're interested in working with flower essences. This big leaf maple told me that they were all about intergenerational healing. If you notice, it's a large tree with really big leaves, big leaf maple, and they really nurture their young, like they send carbs to the roots of the younger trees. And it's a lot about nourishment and connection between generations. We never totally leave the past behind. We always build on what's come before, but we want to do that in a positive, nourishing way. So if you're interested in that, you can hit up my website, dianaverse.org, and order a flower essence. And then the stone for this month, I think I'm going to go with Moonstone, because I want to tap into the kind of that like Neptunian, watery, the moon kind of intuition. So help you dream up what you want to do. So those are my suggestions for this lunation. All right, hope y'all have a good moon, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.